Hi everyone, welcome to week 3 of your Career Success for Pharmacy Technicians course. This week we are going to be covering Chapter 3 in your English book. Chapter 3 is all about pronouns and the use of pronouns, and I like this introduction because it gives you a very good example of why we want to use pronouns. The whole idea of replacing the name with a pronoun so you're not repeating yourself over and over and over again is a great example here of why we use pronouns. But it's all obviously, just as with any part of the English language, it's very important that we know how to do that. So they're going to talk a little bit about pronouns and how to use them properly. We're going to be looking at first at personal pronouns, which is first, second, and third person. We're going to be looking at the number pronoun, which is singular or plural. And then we're going to be looking at gender pronouns, his and hers, that type of thing. And then case pronouns, which is subjective versus objective or possessive. So do we own it? Is it mine? That type of thing. So each of those topics are going to be covered in this particular chapter. So, whether or not we're being we're speaking or we're being spoken to or spoken about, that's what we're talking about as far as first person, second person, third person. Whether or not it's one or more people, that's what we're talking about with numbers. Again, gender and case. So if you are not sure, make sure that you are reading through this and looking at all these examples. There is a great chart here on this page. Gives you a great example of all of the different forms and which one you should use. A lot of us have some colloquial pronouns that kind of go along with where we live. I know my boss is from Texas, and she says y'all a lot. You'll notice y'all is not on the list. So we want to make sure that we are using proper pronouns. So that's a really important chapter for us this week. And then the second thing that we're going to be covering this week is Section 1, Step 3. Now, this is the actual employment application. So what's the employer looking for when we fill out an employment application? What information do we need to make sure that we complete? And then they're going to give you an example of an actual application to look at. They're giving you a couple of blank ones in here as well for you to complete and use as references going forward. So a lot of times nowadays, you're going to find that these applications are no longer you don't walk in and necessarily pick up an actual paper application anymore. A lot of times you are going to be doing an online application. So you're going to have to start by creating an account with a username and a password. I would encourage you to keep a list of those, because if you're applying at more than one location for more than one type of job, everyone's going to have their own username and password profile, and you're going to want to make sure that well, do I need a capital letter for this one? What did I use for this one? Did I use a special character for my password? Things like that. So you want to make sure you keep yourself a list so that so that when they do respond, you are able to go back in and log back in and see what you've done so that you can make adjustments or things like that. This is an example of an actual application. This one, to me, looks more like a kind of a paper one that you might have seen in the past, but a lot of them are looking like this online, and you're still just filling them in online. So that gives you an example of what it looks like. Here's the back side where you're entering in your work experience as well as your references. One thing I would encourage you to do anytime you're filling out an application, if you are including a reference, even if you've talked to them and gotten their okay before, just let them know that you've applied somewhere and where, so that if they do get a call, it's not something out of the blue that they're not, familiar with, they don't know about. Again, one of the big things with these online ones is your ability to follow instructions. Can you do what they tell you to do? So make sure that you are reading instructions very carefully when you are filling out an online application. And, practice. Again, practicing is very important. Here are some examples of some things that you should make sure you have when you're completing the application. And like I said, there are some samples in here so you can practice as well. So if you have any questions this week, please make sure that you reach out to me, and have a great week.